Hey everyone, Sean Paul Ellis here from Saturday Morning Cartoons. Remember, that's morning with a U. Thank you for listening, and before we start today's show, we have to tell you about a special project that we've been working on, and you can check it out right now for free. Myself, SMC co-host Dave Trumbore, and friends of the show Allison Keene and Alex Kazanis have put together a comic for you called Death Jr. What is Death Jr.? Think of it as part Charles Schulz's Peanuts comic strip, South Park, and a lot of morbid humor. We've had a blast with this, and you can read a new comic strip every weekday in January by going to our Twitter, @DeathJuniorComics, on the web, deathjuniorcomics.com, and you can even check out our current Instagram, which has been taken over with Death Jr. this month, at Saturday Morning Cartoons. We hope you enjoy it and share the hell out of it. Pun intended. Hey everyone, Sean and Dave here from Saturday Morning Cartoons. We cannot start this week's show, absolutely cannot start this week's show, until we thank the following people who went to patreon.com to sponsor this show.
Derek Haynes,
Alex Kazanis,
Jack Connolly,
Jonathan Renteria Elye,
Bill Dixon,
the wonderful Melanie Harker,
Dr. Jason Woods,
oh, the fantastic Allison Keene,
the alright Jamal Newman,
the so-so John Helter,
Battle Mat Fitness,
the wonderful David Trumbore,
and the one and only Sean Paul Ellis. Hey, out there, if you guys want to be on this list or just want to know what's coming up next week on the show, check out patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons for more details. And remember, that's morning with a U.
Thank you so much for sponsoring us. Thank you so much for listening. And now, on with the show.
Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from Cartoon Court, I'll be your presiding juror, Dave Trumbore. No. Joining me as always, he's our judge, jury, and executioner. It's Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, bud?
David. I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
Oh, good, man. You got a promotion. You got a lot going on over there.
Yeah, I'm basically Judge Dredd of this entire show right now, so I'm pumped.
Which was an animated series, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, I was going to ask if I am the Adi Shankar, if I'm the Carl Urban, or if I'm the Stallone.
I'm going to leave that up to you. That's 100% in your court.
Stallone. I'm 100% Stallone.
Probably the best.
Yeah, because he violated... Yeah. Well, Carl Urban was great, but, Stallone just violated everything about the entire idea of Judge Dredd by removing his mask several times because you need to see that pretty face.
Oh, chiseled from Stallone. Anyway.
Speaking of pretty faces, we have, as Dave mentioned, this is an extremely special episode that we have tonight. We have both co-hosts of Law & Order Special Viewing Unit that are on the show tonight. Please welcome co-host tonight, Matt Reuter, as well as also co-host Aviv Rubenstein to the show. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Sean, how you doing?
All right. Thank you, Matt, for being here.
No, thank you for having us. We greatly appreciate it.
And thank you, Aviv, for being here.
Yep.
Okay, well,
Perfect.
This is...
A man of few words.
Ooh, I like it. Why didn't I think of
that? I almost cut in. It took me but I was told, you told me not to.
I did, but now I'm telling you should have.
Oh, fuck. To the time machine.
Yeah. We should have our own machine that we travel around and do podcasts. Is that a thing that people do?
Yeah. I believe so. There's a similar machine in this.
It's just called a van, Dave. It's just people just get in a van with all their equipment and they just travel and do podcasts in other cities.
It is an inherently mobile medium.
Wait, hold on. Have you bolted all of your equipment to a desk or a table or a chair somewhere, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, they're on casters, but yeah.
Oh, so you've got a mobile cart.
Basically.
Well, then roll it into the van and let's get going.
I can picture Sean in a moving van being like, David, I'm coming to you live from 495.
I love that it's like a morning traffic report coupled with a cartoon podcast.
I'm picturing you guys doing this basically in the traffic helicopter.
Oh yeah, it's great for. Yeah. It's fantastic. We should
Yeah,
do
I can see that everything down in 495 is all Scooby-Dooed up right now, Matt.
Well, John, thanks for that update.
I hope that's the chopper sound coming from Aviv. I'm not 100% sure that it's safe for work.
And then this is an audio podcast, so let's not qualify any of these weird sounds that you hear, and let's leave it all up to the imagination of all these listeners. Everybody who's listening, we are of course talking about Scooby-Doo. Where are you tonight? Huh? Oh my god, if you are not familiar with the history of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? It is an American animated mystery comedy television series produced by Hanna-Barbera. Produced for CBS, the series premiered as part of the network's Saturday morning schedule in September of 1969 and aired for 2 seasons until October of 1970. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Was the first incarnation of what would eventually become a long-running media franchise.
Has anyone here not heard of Scooby-Doo?
Like on this podcast, or are you throwing that out to the listeners?
No, if it's a listener, it's
anyone
everybody.
On 495. Anyone in the broadcast range of this helicopter. No, of
No,
course
we're.
not. Everybody's heard of it.
yeah, we're all familiar. If you are listening right now and you're not familiar, turn this off.
Yeah.
Go watch an episode. They are freely available through every possible streaming source that's out there.
I
Watch
feel
it and then come
I
back.
feel like it is probably the single most popular cartoon show of all, like the
American
yeah,
cartoon.
for sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Like that, and maybe like the Flintstones and the Jetsons, which were also Hanna-Barbera cartoons from this time. Like
Maybe Yogi Bear?
yeah, also a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Like this was like the hit parade from Hanna-Barbera. This and maybe the Flintstones and the Jetsons, and you know those are all Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So like, and I don't know, this is not the this is not the hottest take in the world, but like Hanna-Barbera really owned like primetime cartoons. Oh, this was Saturday morning, right?
This was Saturday
right,
morning
so
as well, yes.
Really owned cartoons with laugh tracks in the late 60s and early 70s.
Boy,
Oof.
did they.
Yeah.
Hey, as long as he didn't say Yogi Bear, because whoever would suggest that is just like completely out of it. And I don't know who would ever say
Right.
that.
Well, I
What
was
a
waiting
fucking
for
asshole
him
would
to
say
I
that.
was waiting for him to cut back in again with the Yogi Bear, but
I don't know what you're talking about. Avi.
it's,
Hey, so everybody knows Scooby-Doo, right? We've already kind of established that. So why this particular episode we're talking about tonight? What was it for you guys? If you haven't picked up on this now, we're doing a crossover special. You may have seen this in a TV series somewhere along the line. We are doing a podcast crossover special. This is Scooby-Doo SVU, bringing to our listeners out there. First time ever. Hopefully you like it. We're going to have some fun with it. So what was it about this episode that made you guys want to talk about it?
I heard that there was a certain character named a certain thing. We probably got to get it out of the way early. There's a character named Max the Midget, which is not the best word to use.
No,
But
it's not.
but what? So there's they deal SVU deals with children and sex crimes, and there's like a little bit of both in this. So with the circus,
Yeah. Hey, he's not wrong.
so like the rough plot of this involves hypnosis. Is that too much of a spoiler to say?
No.
Here,
it's fine.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you the quick
Yeah.
synopsis that we have, the official one, the official Hanna-Barbera synopsis for Bedlam in the Big Top, which is the 10th episode from season 1. In this episode, the gang stumbles upon a circus that is supposedly haunted by a ghost clown that starts to hypnotize some of them with a gold coin.
So I wrongly assumed that this was a prequel to the movie It,
It's a fair
and that's why I picked this episode.
I wrongly assumed this was the genesis of the gathering of the Juggalos.
I
Ooh,
don't
I
think
like
that's a
that.
wrong
And so-
assumption.
The entire time I was trying to figure out if this is Shaggy 2 Dope or Violent J. I had no idea, but there were just signs of psychopathic records throughout this entire episode. It was crazy.
I actually watched it on mute with ICP just blasting in the background, and it made a lot more sense. It was kind of like a Wizard of Oz
Dark Side of the Moon.
and fucking Dark Side of the Moon scenario.
You got to play Great Malenko backwards, and it syncs up perfectly with this.
It did. It really did.
Yeah, and when you get to the end, the fifth Joker card drops, and then it's the end of the world as we know it.
Yeah, so hang in. It's going to be a rough ride.
Leonard
Guys, if you have
Bernstein.
no idea what we're talking... if you everybody, if you have no idea what we're talking about Insane Clown Posse, do not pause to go Google what is Insane
Just
Clown
buy
Posse.
some Faygo and listen to the rest of the episode. We're fine. Everything's
Yeah,
fine.
just don't worry about it. You're already leaps and bounds beyond where you should be as a human at that point anyway. So don't worry. Oh man. So I wanted to ask before we start getting into and talking about theme song animation and characters. I'm very curious to know, Matt, did you have any specific touch points with Scooby-Doo growing up? Is this something that you watched when you were younger that you were familiar with?
Yeah, it is actually. I don't have any particular episode that I'm like, oh, I remember this one was so great or whatever like that. But I do remember watching it as a kid, and I mean, it's so incredibly formulaic. Obviously, watching it as an
Unlike
adult, being like,
SVU.
wow. Unlike SVU, which is not formulaic at all. But no, like I just remember really liking Scoob, and I couldn't specifically tell you why, but even watching it again to come on tonight, I remember just like watching it, just like a big dopey grin on my face, being like, why is this so fucking entertaining? But for whatever reason, it is, and it's one of those like weird kind of indescribable things, like that sense of nostalgia you get while watching it. I remember loving it as a kid. Like I was never like a big like Hardy Boys fan or anything like that, but for whatever reason, Scooby-Doo really worked for me. Like something about like the mystery element of it, I think I gravitated towards, although this was really the only thing in that genre that did that for me. I don't know, maybe it was the dog, I don't know, but something about it just kind of clicked. Like, who
Only
doesn't like
cartoon
dogs?
with a dog in it ever.
Well, no, but that combines dog with mystery
Oh, okay.
solving.
Good pupper.
That's more.
It's a heckin' papa.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I loved Scooby-Doo. I think even whenever they made like that god awful like live action remake in the early 2000s,
Freddie
I think I
Prinze
saw
Jr.?
that.
With Freddie Prinze
Sarah Michelle
Jr.?
Gellar.
And Matthew
That's where they
Lillard.
met
Matthew
and
Lillard.
fell in love.
I think it is actually. But I even saw that. I don't know why, because it was probably way out of the age range for something like that.
Nah, you
But
But Aviv, I wanted to ask you the same question that I gave Matt. Go ahead.
On what Matt said, did you know, this is a little bit of trivia, did you know that the live action Scooby-Doo remake was supposed to be like a gritty, more adult reboot of Scooby-Doo? It was like supposed
know.
to be like a real mystery, potentially rated R, and
it was like a Michael Mann
Yeah,
film.
something
It's like
he-
4.5
he-
hours,
but
just
with
really gritty.
Scooby-Doo. And so
Takes place in LA.
they like got like halfway through production or so, and the producers are like, what in the fuck are we doing? And like and we're like, we need to fix this and make it for kids again. So that's just a little nugget of triv.
And then they made a second
Yeah.
one.
My
yeah.
history with Scooby-Doo is I wasn't allowed to watch Scooby-Doo as a kid because Casey Kasem is Arab.
What?
What's that now?
And
Okay, good. You never know.
yeah,
these days.
right. So that's a layered joke. My parents are Israeli, and Casey Kasem played Shaggy. I watched Scooby-Doo a lot, and I, for whatever reason, I know what the reason is actually, liked the kind of new adventures of Scooby-Doo more, the ones that came out in the 90s. And it had them as like younger, they were like kids or whatever.
Oh yeah, pup named Scooby.
A pup named
right?
Scooby-Doo. And
Yeah.
I liked that one better because it had more songs, and I liked kind of the 50s, 60s, 70s kind of doo-woppy, poppy song, like, you know, the Sugar Sugar or whatever. And I till to this day remember the lyrics to one of the songs to A Pup Named Scooby.
Is that your way of getting us to ask you to sing?
I'm not gonna sing it because that's weird, and like,
Oh.
but I can recite
Bummer.
the lyrics to you.
We need to do a musical
Love it.
podcast.
Love it.
episode.
Well,
so you can come back for that.
Sean was giving us a real good rendition of a theme song earlier.
He was. It was very good.
No, the lyrics are: "Here comes the Iceman. He's trying to freeze the crew. He's not an Iceman. His touch will turn you blue." And like, it has been 20 years since I saw
Yeah.
that episode of TV, and I only saw it once. And for whatever reason, like I super remember it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm fucking weird. Sorry.
No,
No,
you're
hey.
in the right place. We have the same conversation every week for a different show. So
Dave, you watched Scooby-Doo as well growing up too,
I
correct?
think,
Was
yeah.
it a pup named Scooby-Doo or was it some other variation?
I definitely watched Pup Named Scooby-Doo, and I'm kind of with Aviv. I actually liked that cartoon quite a bit more than I probably should have for like the age range at the time. But I think for like classic vanilla flavored Scooby-Doo, like every kid has to watch that.
Yeah.
You just have to. Like it's kind of like always on. It's like Looney Tunes, right? It's always on somewhere.
Or SVU.
You can always find an episode of it somewhere at any given time. I mean, the episode we watched tonight is almost 50 years old. But to Matt's point, like it still holds up. It's still fun to watch. For me, I was never super into like the mystery aspect of it because as you'll see with things tonight, they don't really give you enough to solve anything or make you feel like you did anything like constructive. It's just like, oh, it's that guy. So that part was never, I don't know. This was kind of just like a comfort cartoon. It's just kind of on in the background and it could play for a couple hours and I would sort of pay attention to it, but not be like super invested in it. At least not until Scrappy showed up, and then I was all in with Scrappy, man.
Oh,
Scrappy's like the best character ever
Are
created
you
for anything ever
Pro Scrappy?
in the world. I am anti-Scrappy.
Okay.
I am pro-Scrapple, anti-Scrappy. Nobody's
Wait,
pro
I
Scrappy. That's why they
believed you.
murdered him in the movies.
I agree, and it's a different kind of silliness than we get in cartoons today. It's like, very of its time. I mean, cartoons are clearly still silly.
What's interesting is every villain after the 1960s was actually Scrappy, just in another human disguise.
Oh,
like
God.
retconned
Someone like a
in, but-
robot.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
and that's an actual thing that happened, which is
That's a real mind fuck.
Guys, I want to ask, do you know who actually created Scooby-Doo?
Was it not Hanna-Barbera?
I know
it
it was based off of a radio program.
Well, it was created by two writers who created the original
writer wrote
Scooby-Doo. Two writers were the original. They created the original Scooby-Doo series for Hanna-Barbera. Everybody should know them. They are pretty well-known names around this show. It's Joe Ruby and Ken Spears.
Oh, Joe
Yeah,
Ruby
the
and
Ruby
Ken
Spears bros.
This was done by Ruby Spears.
Makes sense.
Created the original Scooby-Doo character.
So it was not a radio. Was it a radio program like Matt mentioned?
I thought the characters were. I read somewhere because I did a little bit of research before I came on that there was a couple different iterations. There was like in its infancy, at least the original iterations of it. It was based off of a radio program called. Hold on, I've got the notes.
That would make
here.
sense for like the old timey radio kind of mystery hour kind of things.
Yeah.
I could see that kind of growing out of it, but then going into like the cartoony direction and being more for kids. That would make sense. I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Yeah, the radio show that I have, it was based on a radio show called, quote, I Love a Mystery, end quote. And the other original titles for this was Who's Scared and also Mysteries 5.
My God, you guys, how
So I had Mysteries 5 was the original title of the show that they had originally created with the dog who then later became Scooby.
Yes.
that's
like,
much better
similar
than,
information.
than what rescue. What was it? Rescue.
Oh,
4?
Emergency 4?
Plus 4 or
Emergency
whatever.
plus 4?
Yikes.
Ugh.
But no, that's guys, don't you want to go back to like the 1940s or 50s where you really didn't have to try hard and you could just come up with a show title called like Isn't It a Mystery? Done. You're hired.
Yeah.
Here's 1,000 gold coins. I don't know how money works.
No,
That was valid.
I think
currency.
you'd become frustrated with yourself within about 30 seconds, Dave, because you'd have all these great ideas and people would be like, that's it, we're going to go run with them. Success! And you'd just be like, well, now I got to come up with more stuff.
Yeah,
No,
you're
no,
like,
that's much less preferable than what's happening
it's
today.
everything you touch turns to gold, and what kind of life is that?
Oh, it's the worst.
It's old Dave Midas Touch Trumbor.
That's what they call me. Let's get into this one. You have any more before we get into like the normal discussion?
So I was going to say, I think the most notable thing or the most memorable thing for me will help segue into what we're doing, which is the theme song of this show. This theme song is unbelievably iconic. There are so many pros, maybe a little bit of con to watching this. And so, but I want to turn this over first to Matt. I want to get your impressions on the Scooby-Doo theme song.
I love it. I watched this episode a couple days ago for the first time to come on here, and the theme song has been stuck in my head for the past couple days. Like, it's just been on loop in my head, and I'm starting to kind of go insane, actually, from it. But it's fucking it's because this is for the Scooby-Doo Where Are You? Now, the other theme songs, they were all slightly different. I don't really remember them, but the original theme song that was for this episode is fucking fantastic. Because they're all
Right.
different, correct? If I'm not I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, a pup named Scooby-Doo,
Yeah,
and then
well, sure.
any Scooby-Doo variant has had its own theme music for it.
Yeah, it does feel very like of the time, like late 60s, early 70s kind of, I don't know, doo-woppy, something like that.
No, I think that this is one of those rare instances where the era that this came out, the music and the tone, they all really come to like a confluence and fit so well together that it's almost insane.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. It's so fun. Like, it feels very much like you could almost make it like I feel like the person that wrote the theme song for this also was probably really good at writing like commercial jingles.
Oh, sure.
Because it's really good at just
Yeah.
being like infecting your head and like not going anywhere.
It
for a
is
really
it is
long time.
100% an earworm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, I think what helps that is they play it again over the credits. So they have like
Yes.
it's a thing that has multiple verses, and you hear it twice in a half an hour, and it's infectious because it's good, but it's also infectious because you hear it like 3 times. And I love it. It's God, I can't expound upon that anymore other than the fact that for only having 25 episodes of Scooby, Where Are You? That might be the most iconic thing about the show, other than perhaps the way that Scooby talks.
Dave, what about you? Thoughts about the theme song?
No, I mean, you guys said it best. I think this is one that the theme song itself, it just speaks for itself. Everybody knows it. And if you don't, as soon as you hear it, you probably love it and will never forget it. I think it's one of the better theme songs that's out there because it just, it describes so much about the show itself. And yeah, it just speaks for itself.
And also,
what about you, bud? Yeah, go ahead.
And also to call back to the other Hanna-Barbera cartoons, I think that that's a part of all of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons of this era. They have really iconic theme songs. You can sing Jetsons, you can sing Flintstones, you can't sing Yogi Bear.
Nope.
Yeah. You know that fantastic theme song that we reviewed a couple episodes ago for Super Friends. That was very catchy and quite the earworm. I'm kidding. It was bad. It was very, very weird.
It's got nothing on Spawn.
It's got nothing on Spawn. So I had a couple thoughts about this theme song. I mean, obviously, this is sort of a hybrid theme song. So there is what feels like some dedicated animation that they have that's specifically for this theme song that I'll talk about in a second. But a lot of this is made up of like cuts of different like actual in-episode animation pieces that they have, where it's a lot of actionable moments where people are moving. It's very kinetic. But the thing that kind of really registers in my brain that makes this so iconic is the bat noise that they have that's at the beginning.
Yes.
That brings you into it and sort of like that spooky mansion. And so it's that bat sound, the spooky kind of like castle mansion in the background, and sort of like
thunder and
the
lightning.
smoke that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And that always set the tone for me that like I was like, oh, I'm about to enter into some Scooby and or Do right now. Like this is happening.
Possibly a doobie.
No.
What?
So that always really brought me in. It was the thing that I guess further kind of brought me in that I would have always loved to have seen in the actual episodes is that they have these moments where there's like a reveal of a villain where they go to these like still shots and then they punch in on that still shot. And now we've seen a lot of other animators and people do this, like John Craig Falusi with Ren and Stimpy used to do a great job with being able to show like a very detailed still shot and then either a pan or like a punch in to show some of the gory, gruesome detail that was in it. And they are just as gross as you think they are right now. Because think about every pimple, crust, booger, anything that was available on either of those titular characters, and it's gross. And so to see that, and I guess maybe they have that robot scene that's in the theme song where Scooby's in the barrel, he hits somebody, the top of the barrel comes off, and it's that like kind of robot looking sentinel thing. For some reason, that punch in on that character in my brain is one of those things that I'm always just like, I will never forget that moment from this theme song. I also had a couple other weird ideas because you only really get an intro in terms of Scooby-Doo and who he is. You have no idea who these other 4
Hangers on are.
Yeah, but you have no idea who these other four teens are that just happen to be around this cool dog all the time. And so I actually went back and I watched the theme song, as I know you were joking earlier, just watching the show on mute. And I watched it on mute to see what my takeaway was. And obviously, I have knowledge of Scooby-Doo, so it's hard to be unbiased about this. But my immediate thought was, who are these teens? Why is there a group of creeps? And this dog is eating food that no dog should eat. Somebody please call a vet. And all of these things together, without any context, if maybe this is the first time you're ever watching Scooby-Doo, I would love to get somebody's reaction to this. But I think for everybody else, we just know it as that iconic theme song that we love so much.
Let me ask you this, Bud. What do you think about what's more iconic? Kind of the look of this thing and the animation style, the Hanna-Barbera style, like their house style, if you want to call it that,
Sure.
or the music and kind of the theme song? What?
I think it's impossible to uncouple those because they do such a weird job, especially in this episode, of having the music remain consistent and underneath everything. And I don't remember that in the Jetsons or the Flintstones, but I think Scooby-Doo does a great job of it. Even within the first scene, there's a weird slide whistle. And then like 2 scenes later on, they have horns. And then in another scene later, they have just a random accordion that's playing.
Oh, yeah. And there's strings throughout the whole thing, too. I was really focusing on that, just like the arrangement and the orchestration for it, which was nuts. Yeah.
And so I think it's hard for Scooby-Doo in particular to not talk about one without the other. I mean, I think that they're just so closely married in this that's what makes this so fun, is that it never kind of feels like there's a weird dull moment. There's always some interstitial, whether it's like people walking, or people using navigational language like to an extreme that you're just like, please shut up, characters. Like, I don't need you to talk anymore. Or the actual music filling in some of those gaps where action could be there. And so I love watching this show for that reason.
How about our guests? Matt, do you have anything that kind of stands out to you? What do you think of when you think of the animation style of like a Scooby-Doo? What are the first couple of tropes that come to mind?
It's the animation style of, I guess it's not just this one. I guess it's all kind of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. It's the limited animation where it's just like, if it doesn't have to move, it ain't fucking moving. So it's just like they just move like wooden boards with like moving legs, and it's like really, again, like it's. I mean, especially when you compare it to like modern day cartoons, like it's fucking terrible. But there's something about it. Watching, you're like, it's just weird looking, and it's fucking great. Like I love it so much. Like it's like really off-putting, but because you're just like, you're watching it, you're like, something about this does not look at all natural. Like it's because like people don't move like this, and yet it's still just like the color palettes that they use, the kind of like graininess of it, since it's from the 60s or the late 60s, early 70s. Right. Like it's fucking iconic, and it's been, I'm sure, parodied in any number of other things. Like hell, I can remember fucking like an SNL episode from within the past like 5-10 years where they literally did like a Scooby-Doo parody. It's like the show came out in 1969. Like it's still just this touchstone that has just survived for such a long time, and I think the style is part of it.
Supernatural's going to do a full episode with Scooby-Doo coming up sometime later.
No shit, really?
Stop it.
Supernatural's still on the air?
Yeah, after like 10 seasons.
We are stopping this podcast and we're becoming a Supernatural podcast where we're just going to rate and review and talk about how much we love Supernatural.
Fine with that. Yeah, the guys are getting animated. They're joining Scooby-Doo. We haven't seen anything for it. We don't know any details, really. We don't even have a date yet.
But, are the Harlem Globetrotters going to show up too?
What's that?
Fingers crossed.
The Harlem Globetrotters, are they showing up too?
Why not?
Fingers crossed.
Oh my God.
Fingers crossed. Aviv, anything from you about the specific animation for Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, so the thing that really bothers me / is indicative of the era to me is kind of like what Matt was saying, where if it doesn't need to move, it's not moving, and how the characters feel very separate from the background. And like they will if a character interacts with the floorboard suddenly changes colors because it was originally like a background floorboard, and now it's like now it's a prop. And so that's something that always used to bother me and tear down the kind of artifice. When I was a kid, I didn't use the word artifice, but also now it's something that I've come to really like.
If I've learned anything from playing Legend of Zelda video games, it's that when you see that discolored area, you lay a bomb down.
Yep.
And
Every
it
time.
and it opens up, and chances are it's either weapons or rupees. So always a good thing. There were moments where I was watching this where I was like, oh, they should just put a bomb down. They can find a whole treasure chest.
I mean,
of shit in there.
when I was about the animation stuff, when I was doing some of my research, I think the official title, at least that I found, it's called limited animation, and it was actually kind of innovative at the time for Hanna-Barbera because it greatly cut down on the cost of production and the ability to actually speed it up, which is why it was a necessity thing. Which, I mean, it's kind of jokey to look at it now because like while their legs are moving, you see like the bodies are kind of just like bobbing up and down, so it's clearly someone in front of a camera, literally just like doing this with the
Just
piece of
moving
paper.
it back and forth.
Yeah,
just
so they-
DJing it.
I mean, I just like it's funny. Like we think back on it, we're like, oh, it's just a weird style, but it's like, no. There was a reason they were doing this. Is because they had to churn these out as quickly and cheaply as possible, and it's fun. I don't know. I like it.
So, to your point, Matt, the thing that always surprises me about a lot of this early HB animation is the lack of colored eyes that are characters. They don't have, and again, I know I've mentioned Super Friends for this, but again, it was a touch point that we've had in a recent episode, and so it's something where having no whites of their eyes, and which is weird, which is a
Creepy
weird
doll
thing
eyes.
to see. Well, the crazy thing is that you see Scooby with the whites of his eyes a majority of the time. And there is one scene in particular in this episode where suddenly Daphne goes from not having any whites into her eyes to getting hypnotized and suddenly having whites of her eyes and being all cross-eyed, googly-eyed, which was super fun. She was super cute in that moment. Super cute, guys. So, but it was weird and off-putting, and it was everybody. It was everybody, every adult human or even child human, any human that's in this show, for some reason, with the exception of Scooby-Doo, for some reason they were just like, we have limited amounts of white, just put it all in the dog's eye.
I wonder if it's like they drew it up and they just looked at the dog with no whites in the eyes and like, that looks fucking creepy. We can't. This is a kids show. We can't do that. The humans, whatever, they'll get over that. But like having a great big giant Great Dane with just like cold black shark's eyes, that might freak the fucking kids out. We can't do this.
So I just want to compare this to the Max Fleischer animations of like the 40s. So I'm sure that you talked about it on the podcast, but like the original kind of Superman cartoons were drawn by this dude named Max Fleischer, and they used to do 24 or close to 24 frames per second stereo rotoscope. So they used to do like 24, close to 24 frames a second. They used to do this thing called stereo rotoscope, where they would film an actor doing the thing, and then they would paint over it. And that was completely untenable, and they had to like cancel all of his cartoons because, you know, he's taking months and months and months to do a Superman cartoon. And so this is like a really this is a they cut costs almost too much, where they're just like, no white.
I like it. I think it's endearing.
I mean, we've talked a lot on this show about sort of jank animation, and we keep defining this as the idea of like, you know, when you storyboard something, you create these keyframes, and then you fill in everything in between in order to have a fluid motion. Otherwise, you just have a series of these keyframes, which I think is almost probably the best example is at the very end of the theme song, where the entire gang is looking in a book, and then they do almost like a jump scare, and their heads like look up at you, like ah, like whoa!
Didn't see that
I didn't
coming.
realize I was watching Insidious. Like it's creepy. And so they do that a lot in this. And
Sean, to be fair, that book was the Necronomicon, so you know, really, they were
Scooby-Doo versus Ash versus the
Can I have
Evil
another-
Dead
I'm
versus
I have another
Supernatural.
draft of that joke. To be fair, Sean, that book was the Babadook.
Oh, there you go. That works
Okay.
too.
All
Also
right.
good.
I'm trying
Oh,
to
nice.
I'm
Okay.
trying to research right now to see how many frames per second this Scooby-Doo.
One.
Yeah, one. My guess is that it's 12, because that's kind of what the style was in those days, 12 frames per second,
Yeah.
as opposed to 24, which was for the Fleischer. So literally, they're doing half the amount of work less than half
Yeah.
if you count the
Plus,
Sure.
they also used they used a lot of like reused animation, right? So if you watch any 2 Scooby-Doo episodes, you will see the Mystery Machine going both left and right against the same background any number of times.
Just
So
trees.
yeah, just trees and like random swampy forest area. It's always the same, and that saves them a good 3-4 seconds every
They
time.
even did it within this episode where they like repeated
Yeah.
a shot.
I love it.
I think these are all great ideas about the animation, great observations. I wanted to check and see. We've got a core group of 5 characters that are here. These are all well-known, beloved characters. I don't think we need to dig down deep into any of them. Are there any notes that you guys have, or any memorable characters? Anybody that you're just like, I love this character?
So
Dave.
I will just say for this particular episode, it was early in this season, right? It was only episode
Right.
10.
10.
I didn't get a sense of like what specifically any of these characters were supposed to represent as far as like their archetypes or anything. Now, obviously, as the show goes on and based on what happens to them and what they do, you learn kind of like all the pieces that they play. So with the exception of like Stoner, Hungry, Shaggy, and just like Scooby, there wasn't really anything to define what these characters did. None of them were particularly heroic or particularly smart or particularly dumb or in distress. None of them, they just kind of wandered through this thing. So for this particular episode, there wasn't really any character moments from our core group that stood out. Some other ones did, and we'll talk about them in a second. But have you got something?
yeah,
it.
a couple of things. I completely agree with you. I think that the only other character that has even the remote a remote inkling of who they kind of become in the culture is Daphne, because she like at one point in the episode wears some skimpy outfit. And so like Daphne is like the sex pot of the group, which is kind of weird.
I have so many issues with what
Me
went
too.
down and how that all happened. But we'll
Tons.
get there.
But also, so I remember Velma always being my favorite, and
Same.
and I remember that not Comedy Central, Cartoon Network used to run this ad that was like Velma was the center of the cartoon universe, and everyone is somehow connected to Velma. And it was like 6 degrees of separation, but like it always led back to Velma.
Right.
And interestingly enough, I find that true in my life, because the person that plays Velma right now on the new Scooby-Doo series, her name is Kate Micucci. And I
yeah.
met her in
Oh, yeah.
How
How about that? I texted her this morning. She gave me her number at that time, and I texted her this morning to. It's a long story.
You buried the shit out of the lead
It was.
on that one,
I
by the
didn't
way.
though. So she gave me. So we took a picture together, and she asked me to text it to her, and so she gave me her number to text her the picture, and then she
Classic Micucci move.
classic McCooch, and so she gave me tickets to her show, and like it was fine. This was like 3 years ago, 4.5 years ago. And I
awesome.
texted her today to be like, I'm doing this podcast today. Do you have anything to say about being Velma? And she has not gotten back to me.
I was gonna say, not do you want to be on this podcast today?
Well, I didn't want
Did
to
she give you the
overstep.
whole new phone who dis?
Yeah, now I hear you.
She was like, I'm too busy recording VO for DuckTales right now.
She's
Talk to
actually
you later,
recording
VO.
VO for Scooby-Doo. She posted on Instagram. I'm not a stalker.
I follow Kate Micucci as well. She is delightful.
Yeah.
From
Awesome.
I'm surprised she didn't give you the new phone who dis whenever if it was from 3 years ago.
I can read you the text that I
There's,
sent.
there's still time.
I can read.
No, we're good.
that's-
All right.
No, we-
so
we
we,
don't
Read us
want
the
that.
number of Kate Micucci's phone on the air.
So Dave, myself, Aviv, we all like Velma
Yes.
as main character. Matt, we didn't hear you confer in
Yogi
that
Bear's
moment. Is
not
there?
in this.
Yeah, Yogi Bear's not in
shit,
this.
I think I watched the wrong show then.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I like Shaggy as much as it's fucking dumb to like Shaggy because he's like just the coward who like always has no idea what's going on around him. I'd say Scooby, but it's like, because who doesn't love like a dog, like such a lovable dog like that? But the weird thing is like, so is it ever established who's the owner of Scooby, or just you know what I'm saying? Where's it like? Because it seems like Shaggy and Scooby are always together, so you would assume that Scooby is Shaggy's dog. Is that ever really established in this? Aviv, do
Scooby
you
is
know?
a sentient being. He knows language. And
It's
and
true.
he can express himself. Therefore, no one is his owner. Abraham Lincoln, 1863.
Oh boy, Dave.
Oh.
Have Scooby and Astro ever gotten together?
No, because they're voiced by the same person.
Has there ever been that doesn't mean it
That doesn't matter.
It would be too similar. You can't have them talking to
What,
each
you
other.
think it's like a collision of dimensions or something? Like it's going to create
hold on.
It's basically it's the original
counterpart.
counterpart.
Has Matt Reuter from the podcast and Matt Reuter, the human being, ever gotten together in the same room? No, Dave. They're
impossible.
clearly voiced by the same person.
You can't prove it. It's an audio medium.
Jesus Christ.
Can't prove it across space and time. No, I don't know if there's a crossover where Scooby and Astro.
There is a crossover where Scooby meets
Okay.
Astro.
I like it. I like it a lot because I feel like they're the only two that speak each other's language.
They're
And
from
I'm-
different
They both
times.
speak
How would this
English.
even work?
They speak. Well, it's
There could
questionable.
be what was that one character on the Flintstone or in the Jetsons? Was it Gazook who could like time travel?
Yeah, the little pocket dude. Yeah.
Yeah, little pocket dude. So I mean,
Also, there is a theory that the Jetsons and the Flintstones take place at the same time, but the Flintstones are like in a post-apocalyptic hellscape on Earth that is back into the Stone Age with the
Where dinosaurs.
where
came back.
dinosaurs came back.
Yeah.
but there's still a laugh
Okay.
track.
go on.
And then high in the clouds, the Jetsons and their society live above them.
People.
So
have
it's
too
like
much
Empire
damn
Strikes
time.
Back in the clouds with the Jetsons.
Where does Lando?
Talking about
come
Cloud City.
Yeah, exactly. It's Cloud City.
in? But where's Lando come in?
Oh, this was what animation in the '60s. There were no black people.
Wow. Moving on.
Uh,
I really want to get into this episode, but for our fans out there tonight, we're not doing kind of the typical breakdown of the crazy stuff that happens in the plot. Do you guys want to do like a brief high level summary of what goes on in this plot? Spoiler alert, it's the same thing that happens in every Scooby-Doo episode ever.
So I had an idea for this. So why don't you give me, Matt, like if you were to give it like a bulleted list that's like 5 bullets, what do you think this episode, like what are the highlights
Weird
for you in
gun
this
question.
episode? Yeah.
Okay, it's a tandem bike accident occurs with a strong man and a little person named Max the Midget.
It's 2 bullets.
Oh shit! All
Yeah,
right.
you got a lot to cover, bud.
You are
wasted
really,
nine
you were
bullets
really
on the
focusing on
opening.
this bike ride, buddy.
Okay, but that's what sets it all off. So I'm gonna wrap it up. Here we go. Leads to discovery of haunted circus.
Okay.
Ghost clown hypnotizes the gang into doing weird shit.
Nice.
Ghost clown is revealed not to be an actual ghost clown.
Oh, sticks
Yeah,
the
there it
landing.
is, there it is.
Sticks the landing.
It was touch and go there for a minute. I'm not gonna lie. I was like,
focus on a tandem bike ride, but I mean, other than that,
because
you
it's
pulled it
the
off.
character's name is Max the Midget. Like how you, I'm fine devoting 2 bullet points to that. Are you kidding me?
Did you- It seemed
This,
aggressive.
this whole episode very insensitive
Yes,
to
this-
little people.
50 years
just
ago,
the
I
first 5
apologize.
minutes. That's it. Then he's
Yeah,
gone.
other than that, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's 3.
It's literally gone.
So
Oh,
I'm,
God. All right,
I'm here to
Aviv.
fill in the cracks. This is Matt did
Okay.
Matt did the Lord's work, and now I can say, the owner of bullet point 1, the owner of the circus says, when the ghost clown appears at your circus, you might as well quit. Like it's a saying that people have.
Yeah, that's the thing that happened.
It's like Lady Macbeth.
Oh, you mean Mr. Bombstorm?
Um,
Mr. Bombstorm, the circus man.
bullet point 2, rubber ladder. I barely knew her.
How long you been waiting for that?
The whole time.
The whole time. Damn it. I can't even fault you. I never.
Bullet
thought
3.
of it.
Bullet 3, V.
Dogs' knees are actually their ankles. So you know how dogs' knees they bend kind of backwards? That's because it's not their knee. Their knee is in their hip. The what you're seeing bend is actually like what a dog's ankle is. They say something about Scooby's ankles and
Oh, when he holds up his fake sprained ankle.
Yeah,
because he
yeah,
doesn't wanna
yeah,
get,
yeah.
eaten by the evil
that's
clown
actually
ghost.
his
Yeah.
backward knee.
It's crazy that Aviv just gave us 3, 4, and 5 with that last comment.
It's amazing. They're all put together.
Is
What's your 4, buddy?
He's soldiering on.
is this where the lion named Simba comes from?
It's got to be right.
I pointed that out too, and I was
No,
like, wait,
it's
hold
gotta
on.
be something ahead, way before
That's-
that. Because if this show is gonna make a pop culture reference, then it's gotta be at least 40
Gonna
years old.
stick?
Well, that's why I was like, is the Lion King like the Jungle Book was actually a book before
That's not where
it was
Simba's
a
from,
movie?
dude.
Well, no, I know
Now
what
we're
I'm saying. No,
Simba's
but I'm
fault.
saying,
As
I was like, was
comparison,
the
yeah.
Lion King, even though it's basically it's Hamlet, but was there some sort
It's
of
also a ripoff
actual?
of the Japanese. Dave was about to say that, so I'm gonna let you say it.
No, I was just thinking the only thing I could think of was Kimba the White Lion, which was around like 20, I don't know, 10 years before this or so, but it wasn't Simba. So I don't know where Simba comes from. And Kimba the White Lion was I think originally a Japanese cartoon. Go ahead.
I want to point out the really weird scene where suddenly Ghost Clown just goes, "Ha, Kenya!" I was like,
out of left field.
what?
I feel like this is
Makes
an
sense
But it
once
was
they
like
wrapped it up.
spot on Elton John. I was
Inspiration.
like, God
Okay,
damn.
so my last
Like everything the darkness touches is my
my
kingdom.
last bullet point is a bit of trivia, which is that
Go
this
ahead.
episode is referenced in the How I Met Your Mother episode entitled "A Change of Heart." This has a Dave
What?
Trumbore connection because that episode
Kate
also
Micucci?
nope. That episode
Damn it.
it stars someone that I've also met, but it stars Robbie Amell of Arrow
Oh, I'm not connected to him at all.
because you write about that universe writer.
Sure.
And
Oh, man,
Tenuous, but I'll go
and
with
he-
it.
It is so fun to see Aviv go out on a limb and then
Just
just
get
have that
eaten
limb
up.
break and snap and just see him tumble down that tree.
um,
Oh, that was rewarding. That was rewarding.
Look. I like this logic because that means I'm connected to literally everyone in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it, and I'll take it, and I'm putting it on my
and
list.
Robbie Amell plays a character named Scooby in that episode.
Guys, if you are on LinkedIn as you are listening to this episode, please endorse David Trumbore for just Hollywood.
Yeah, I just put a bullet point in. It's my fifth one. Just says Hollywood.
David Hollywood.
That and
Trumbore.
Crystal Healing.
Yeah. Oh, I like
Is that
it.
a skill? Is that a skill, Dave?
It's on my
If you
skill
put it on
tree.
LinkedIn, it's
Yeah.
now a skill.
It's a
Matt.
skill?
It's
Okay.
a skill.
It's
It's
a
a skill.
legendary skill, actually.
Oh my god.
That was great. No, you guys did a great job. But now we've got a real test for you.
Okay.
Because this is a crossover, and we haven't really done any crossover aspects yet, right?
Correct.
You guys have what? 14 episodes of the podcast in the can. How many? That's a joke. How many do you actually have?
70
72.
by the time, well, depends when this airs. So yeah, 72, 73.
Nice. So you guys feel like
Yeah.
you're essentially like legal practitioners at this point.
Correct.
You feel
Yeah.
Oh
like,
yeah, 100%.
I could pass the
Awesome.
bar
'Cause
today.
Perfect. What we want you to do, and you can decide whoever wants to take the responsibilities.
Defense.
Perfect. It's on record. I'm concerned that these kids are just kind of running around without any oversight, without any I don't know if they've been deputized.
Wait a minute. Objection already.
Okay, fair enough.
Ooh boy.
I don't know what you're objecting to. I don't know who's the judge. I don't
Leading
know
the
what
judge.
rules are. I'm the judge.
Yeah, you need to object to something though, Aviv.
Yeah.
I object.
Badgering.
I'll
Damn
badger
it, this is
you.
not going to go well at all.
Overruled, sustained.
Perfect.
Oh no, damn it.
This is night court. So what we want you to do is one of you needs to defend Evil Clown Ghost, and the other one needs to obviously prosecute. And Sean and I, as the jury of your peers / judge / executioner, are going to decide whose side makes the better case by the end of it. And we're either going to exonerate Evil Clown Ghost or we're going to give him the dick.
Is this what you think we do on our podcast?
100%.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, we sort of do at different points. Okay.
All right. So
Okay.
Matt
but-
is very eager to be the defense.
I feel like he
Yes.
probably has notes, I think.
I do.
I hear them.
I do have
heard
notes.
Those are notes, ladies and gentlemen. For every
I do have a question before we get into this. So before we get into this, what we need to know
Yeah.
is what are the actual charges against Ghost Cloud?
I
Because
mean,
it's
that's
never
a great
actually
question to
established.
start with, because what can you arrest this Ghost Clown for?
Because it kind of
God
just seems like
damn
a
it.
citizen's arrest occurred that wasn't really a citizen's arrest, and he's just being
point.
kidnapped
Is this your
right
opening
now,
statement?
a la OJ and like all of the shit that he got put in jail for.
I need to confer with Judge Ellis. What are the charges being brought against Evil Ghost Clown? Because right now he just hypnotized a bunch of goofy kids that wandered into the circus. So I need some clarity on this, so our counselors know what they're arguing for and against.
I think it would be obstruction.
Wait a minute.
Um,
I'm the
circus
prosecution.
fun?
I should bring the charges.
Okay,
Well,
what do you got?
oh,
How's
well,
this
that makes
working?
it easy for us.
Yeah, done.
Fuck this, taking a back seat.
Okay. So I'm bringing.
Aviv also has declared himself the winner of the trial, so I just
No, but the prosecution brings it. Fuck you guys. So the charges that are being brought are theft and larceny, as well
Whoa.
as wrongful imprisonment. wrongful imprisonment, and or
Ooh.
kidnapping.
Wait,
Wait, who's being charged with wrongful imprisonment? The clown or the
No,
gang who
Harry the
wrongfully
hypnotist.
imprisoned the ghost clown?
Harry the hypnotist. I am bringing charges that he unlawfully imprisoned Daphne, Shaggy,
Mhm.
and Scooby-Doo in prisons of their own mind, as well as Fred
Ooh.
in a real
Ooh.
prison of a steamer trunk.
Steamer trunk. All right, Matt.
As a judge, I'm digging this.
Those are 4, maybe 5 counts. I lost track. How do you respond to each of those?
Okay, my client pleads not guilty,
Oh,
first and foremost.
Great start.
Okay, so the first question is, what evidence do you have that he was responsible for?
Hold on. We're not
any-
even.
you
That's
should have
like,
done that during
that's the actual-
discovery.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do here live on the podcast.
You
We
need
gotta
to-
go
no,
through
no, you
the
gotta-
minutia. I've got about like 50 motions that you guys have to
Awesome. I
adjudicate.
don't know how that works, but you need to respond to the counts first. Are you accepting all the counts that Aviv has brought against your character, Harry the Hypnotist?
I would
you want to
object
argue
to
any
the
of them?
I would object to the unlawful imprisonment of their own minds because here's what happened. Okay, so here's what happened.
Yeah.
So these stupid stoner kids come riding into town.
Objection.
uninvited-
Can I object?
Objection.
Okay, thanks.
You have no evidence that they were on any mind-altering substances.
Dave, you can't also object.
I
You're
was
the
objecting.
judge.
I got
and
this.
or the
I was just waiting. I was like,
Okay.
can I also object? Because that's
No, no, no.
Dave,
I-
Dave is just 12 angry men in one human.
But wait, that doesn't make any sense because he's very conflicted then because he's got the lone dissent on one, but he's got 11 other people that want to get rid of the guy.
I only objected as Aviv rightly did, and I'm going to uphold that. Sean and I will uphold that, I guess. That you
Sustained.
can't, there it is. You can't color the people who are not on trial with an unfair drug brush. Is how it's
Okay,
meant
that's
to
fine.
work.
Fine. That's all I'm pointing out is the fact that these kids are roaming around. They come in uninvited. I was not saying that they're on drugs, but if you, as the jury, want to come to that conclusion, that is up to you. I can't say anything about that. What I am going to say is the fact that it kind of seems like these kids have come into town like they wanted to join the circus. They come, they talk to these guys, and in order to become a circus performer, you have to do a lot of very dangerous things. And as we've known from watching this show, these people are basically cowards. So my client was merely trying to help these people by hypnotizing them to allow them to perform many of the acts they would not be able to do of their own courage, such as high wire walking, lion taming, and unicycle riding across multiple elephants, because the physics works on that. I believe me, it does.
Ladder, I barely knew
And
her.
you can't prove,
Oh, God.
and you can't prove to me
Counselor, please.
that is not what was happening here. None of them seem to have objected to this. They just kind of wake up. They're like, "Oh, okay," but no one's like, "Oh my God, I didn't want to be doing that at all." So
far-
how did they? How
far be
how
it
did he?
from me to interrupt the ramblings of our counselor, but I would just like to point out that he has not directly responded to any of the prosecution's
That was his
counts.
opening
So I'm
statement.
gonna
No, I'm
let them.
saying-
I'm gonna let them all proceed, and
no,
that
no.
was up to you.
I'm so glad that as judge of this, that everybody else is doing my job. Aviv's bringing the actual. They're bringing the reason.
No.
Dave is just doing a bang up job
Great
with this.
opening
I'm just,
statement, but
I'm
not
just
what I asked
really.
for.
Well, no, but this.
I want to also point out that Matt's opening statement ended with an actual question.
Is that the America we
You're-
want to live in?
You decide. No. The reason I bring this up is because in terms of the. In terms of the the unlawful imprisonment of their own mind,
Right.
my argument is the fact that they were not unlawfully imprisoned in their own mind if they were willing participants in the hypnosis. So therefore, they were not being held against their will because they were doing this in order to accomplish death-defying things that they wanted to do while trying to join the circus.
Do you have? I don't know if this has been brought to the court or not, but do you have an expert in hypnotism that you would like to use as a what do you call it?
Expert witness.
Expert witness?
Expert witness. Thank you.
I sure do. He's sitting right here. His
Oh,
name is Dr. Hypnosis
Matt
McGillivuddy,
is so good
right
at
here.
improv.
It's
Dr.
extremely.
Hypnosis Gillibuddy.
He's
Hello.
Wait,
How are
is he
you?
calling witnesses already? I haven't made my opening statement.
doesn't matter. You're gonna lose this. Just sit
We got a
down.
witness on the stand. We got to roll with it. You can cross-examine
let's-
and you
No,
can
fuck.
practice your opening statement on it.
I put
Now, Doctor, where are you credentialed through? Where's your doctorate from?
University of of Phoenix and San Francisco City College.
Was that the brick and mortar University of Phoenix, or was that the online version?
Yeah,
The brick and mortar? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So it was the real one.
yeah.
So, Doctor, isn't it true that people often pursue hypnosis in order to do things that they would not be able to do under a normal state of mind? Things perhaps like helping quit habits or perhaps conquer a fear?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And most people do so willingly whenever they do this. They are not forced into doing these things.
They must be consenting at that point. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Okay, Aviv, your witness?
Oh, Mr. Doctor, excuse me,
Doctor, please, yeah.
Mick Hypnotist Gillibuddy. If I may make an opening statement,
Please.
You know, as judge, I'm gonna allow this.
That is awesome.
I gotta rehash to what he said in his opening statement. Okay, there is, as I will prove, there is positively no evidence that our 4 teenagers and a dog intended to join the circus. In fact, quite the opposite. They came to investigate the mysterious goings-on at the circus. And in addition to that fact, I will prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that what do I prove? That they were not consenting to the hypnosis, and if anything, our characters are guilty of being weak-willed. They are. This is not. They're not on trial here. We have Harry the hypnotist, who was fired from the circus for theft, a count that my esteemed colleague did not even address. And even if you were to question the imprisonment in the characters' own minds, you cannot. It is beyond question that Mr.
Rogers, please, if you don't mind.
Fred Rogers was Mr. Rogers. Fred was imprisoned in a trunk the size of a coffin. So my esteemed colleague is lucky that his client is not on trial for attempted murder. Now, I may go back to Dr. McHypnosis Gillicuddy.
Yeah. I'm still here. I've been waiting. I didn't. Is this common procedure in court? This
I
is
think it's
first
pretty
time.
standard American
Oh.
court.
This is
Yeah.
how it works in
Yeah.
court, Doctor.
Okay.
And
Fair.
your attitude is not appreciated. Doctor,
Damn.
Noted.
have you ever met the victims of Harry the hypnotist's hypnosis?
No. Before today, seen them in court, I've never.
Have you? Can you speak to their mental status when entering into the hypnosis with Harry the hypnotist?
Not having hypnotized them or have given them a thorough review, I would be unqualified to make that assumption.
So, if I were to tell you that they ran from the hypnosis, and when hypnosis was attempted upon them a second time, they held a mirror, reverse hypnotizing their hypnotist, does that sound to you like a group of people who want to be hypnotized?
I would say that this sounds like hearsay.
That it doesn't, though. That's not what hearsay is. You're not a lawyer. You're a doctor. Answer the question.
Objection! Just because the questions are not going my esteemed colleagues, wait, does that mean he gets to just badger his witness until he gives
It's
an
a
answer that
cross.
he wants?
Yeah,
Like,
Aviv-
asked
Aviv-
and
I'll
answered,
say
move
that
on to the next question.
Aviv, as the judge, I'm gonna go ahead and say you better be going somewhere with this counsel.
Right.
Does it seem to you, as an expert in hypnosis, that someone who runs from the hypnosis is a willing participant in the hypnosis?
In my professional experience, I would not consider that to be consent.
No more questions.
No.
I'm done with this guy.
Redirect. Redirect, Your Honor.
Sure.
Doctor, on average, how long does it take to hypnotize a person? And what exactly needs to happen in order for someone to be hypnotized?
It depends on the will, the constitution, as well as also the totem that is used for hypnosis.
Okay, layman's ballpark, just on average, let's say.
It depends on, again, it could take anywhere from a few seconds through making direct eye contact, or it could take anywhere up to 10 to 20 minutes of actual intense focus and meditation.
But you wouldn't say, under normal circumstances, for, let's say, a typical person, that the hypnosis does not happen instantaneously.
I would say under most normal circumstances, again, it's based on will and constitution of that individual. If it is not very strong, they might be more susceptible at that point to being able to be hypnotized.
And how, what symptoms would one show whenever they are officially hypnotized or in a trance?
I would say confusion, they could be withdrawn from their environment, susceptible to suggestive behavior.
Okay. So, as a for instance, if an individual
I'm going
was...
to again say, if you're giving me an example that sounds like hearsay, this judge might get very
I
angry.
just want to say I love how seriously our counselors are taking this cartoon court.
As the judge, I'm going to say this is a lot of fun.
If an individual is being hypnotized, however, does not show any symptoms of being under any sort of a trance for, say, anywhere between 5 to 10 seconds, would it be reasonable to assume that if not showing symptoms, they have the ability to not participate, to look away, to walk away, to not participate in the hypnosis that is occurring? For example, if I were to be showing you something to try to hypnotize you, and at
Are you
any
trying
point
to
in time,
hypnotize
I think,
me?
I
Or are you
think
not.
the counselor just
Are you
hypnotized
attempting
this-
to-
Objection.
Are you
Kangaroo
attempting to
court.
hypnotize?
No, I'm not actually holding anything, Doctor. I'm just saying, if you do not want to be hypnotized, you would simply turn away, would you not?
You could break concentration, you could break focus, break direct eye contact.
Correct. So,
Yeah.
so if individuals that the defense, or the prosecution rather, is saying did not want to be hypnotized and yet took anywhere from between 5 to 15 seconds to show any symptoms of being under hypnosis, wouldn't it be reasonable to conclude that they wanted to participate in that hypnosis since they did not look away or break focus?
I mean, it is very possible. Obviously, it would be very challenging for me to be able to make. This is an educated guess. I am not saying with 100% authority. I am not seeing this hypnotist actually hypnotize somebody. I would need to have a more direct observation to understand exactly how it is that they would be able to achieve such.
But it certainly is possible.
Holding up, everybody knows that holding up a mirror is a standard countermeasure to prevent hypnotism. And so at that point, I would have to say if they were holding up a mirror as a way to prevent themselves from being hypnotized in order to counter hypnotize somebody, which is very common in the industry, I would have to say that does not sound like consent to me.
No question. No further questions.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. Counselors, I'm going to need you to focus up here, and I think I have 2 lines of evidence that I need you to address. One is specifically physical, provable evidence that you can use in your case one way or the other from the previously haunted circus, in direct connection to, what was his name? Henry the Hypnotist.
Harry the hypnotist.
Harry the Hypnotist. Apologies to his cousin Henry. So please address any direct physical evidence.
I am in this courtroom.
Oh,
I'm
damn it.
sitting right over here.
He's been a problem
Can't
this whole
believe
time.
that you would continue to get my name wrong.
This whole time.
I even have a hello, my name
Sir,
is badge
sir,
on.
Hold him in
again, for the
contempt,
4th
Your
time,
Honor.
if you If you do not,
I am going to hold all of you guys in contempt. Dave has evidence that he's bringing as a judge jury right now, so let's respect.
Hey, come on! I don't give
Harry,
a fuck.
this is an open
I don't
case.
give a-
You need to
I
stop.
just can't
It's
remember
Harry.
my
You
fucking
need to
was
name.
that Harry or Henry?
Hey, sir, you're going to get into contempt.
I don't give a fuck.
That's it. You're in contempt. You go. We're going to do this without you from now
I've
on.
always wanted to see people in contempt. So,
I don't
counselors,
give a fuck about this courtroom.
we would request that the counselors focus on 2 lines of their arguments. One is to address any specific physical evidence that is related to the case, and another is to address the unfortunate retelling of the incident from Miss Daphne and the defendant.
So, yes, if I may.
Please.
So, I believe I've made my case that there was
Damn it.
Unwanted hypnosis involved. In addition, it is very clear. The physical evidence is clear that Mr. Fred was trapped in a steamer trunk and left for dead. Had his friends not come by to release him, to free him, a captive, Fred would surely have died.
Your Honor,
In addition,
the defense will.
No, I'm not letting you object.
He did it off camera, just to let you guys know.
yeah.
In addition, the count of theft being levied by the circus owner, and I want to throw an additional count in there of trespassing because Harry the hypnotist
None of this is
was
addressing what
terminated
is supposed to be
from
being addressed right here.
the circus. And
Your Honor, the man is not
clawed
sticking
his
to the
way
line of
back
questioning
in.
that he was specifically
I'm
directed to
talking about
address.
physical evidence. In addition,
Your Honor, object.
The judge is on his phone, not paying attention.
No. I'm paying attention. I'm ignoring this. I'm waiting to hear the actual line of question that prosecutor
there was
Aviv is
latency.
getting
I don't know
to
what I'm
here.
even saying. In addition, Daphne, the harrowing tale of Daphne, put on display like a harlot against her will, being paraded around with a phallic object between her legs and her life in danger, unicycling up and down those pachyderms, moves me to tears. And so the physicality of what she was made to do and the clothing with which she was made to do it is clear evidence of sexual misconduct by the defendant.
If I could interject before I let the whatever Reuters name is follow up.
The defense counsel.
Yeah, that's the one.
Ooh, you are almost not allowed to be judge and jury.
No. I
anymore,
passed that.
Dave.
I went to the bar. Here's the thing that concerns me is that if her story is correct, Daphne arrived in one set of clothing, met this defendant, was hypnotized, and then reappeared in yet another set of clothing. Now that to me, there's something missing there that's disturbing. And that may have appeared off screen.
I believe
Maybe
I
there
just
was no
laid
one
that out,
around.
but thank you, sir.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to make sure that was clear for the jury, who was also us. Very disturbing allegation. How do you respond, counselor?
I would like to address several of the things that the prosecution has said. The defense will stipulate that Mr. Fred was indeed trapped in a steamer trunk. However, we dispute the fact that my client had anything to do with the fact that he fell into that steamer trunk. There is no physical evidence that he had rigged the steamer trunk to do that. There are no fingerprints. There is no DNA evidence to tie my client to that steamer trunk. No, we don't. We don't see that. I didn't see
I
anything.
love
Did
that
you
this.
see
I
anything?
love that the
Were you
entire
there? I'm
cartoon
just saying.
episode can be entered into evidence as video evidence.
Surveillance.
Yeah, circus surveillance.
I didn't see that on screen. I don't know what you saw on that screen. I did not see that on screen. And addressing what happened to Miss Daphne. The prosecution would have you think that she somehow was, that this unicycle that she was riding was some sort of an instrument that was being used against her when she was the one that got on the unicycle and was riding it around.
Oh, I didn't realize that Brock Turner was on trial here. Are you saying that Miss Daphne was asking for it by the way she dressed?
No, not at all. I'm saying Miss Daphne wanted to join the circus and perform this trick where she's riding a unicycle around and merely got into the costume of the circus performers.
Startling revelations.
Bombshell after bombshell here.
I'm still not seeing any physical evidence that is tying my client to this.
All right, I want to, as the judge, I want to acknowledge Dave before we go to closing remarks. Dave.
This is Dave as a random jury member, I guess. I've noticed here that you've got some evidence listed. There was an inflatable clown suit, I guess, some like helium tanks. There was also just like another clown suit. Are you denying? The jury can normally ask questions.
Attempted
of
murder,
people, right?
We're
Isn't this how-
attacking on attempted murder of Max the midget and Samson the strongman. Bike sabotage in the first
There is a
degree.
sawed. There's a sawed in half tandem bike as well entered into evidence.
That is interesting. We have a strong man that's in the back, and we also have a little person who's stuck.
I would
up
like
in
to
the
call Max
rafters
the
somehow.
midget.
Could somebody get him down?
To
Could somebody?
Oh no.
Could somebody please get him down? Hey, why can't I get up there? You know,
get
Max.
some phone
I
books for
don't.
him to sit on.
Hey, this isn't fair. Somebody get me down from these rafters.
Can someone just position a Great Dane under him to cushion the fall, please?
I mean, does that? Scooby, do you want to do that? It's
Okay.
There we go.
They're perfect.
Perfect.
I think my
All right.
I think my final question is to the defense counselor, Rudder.
Yes.
Does your client deny disguising himself as evil clown ghost and rigging of an inflatable evil clown ghost double?
No, he does not, but as far as I'm concerned, dressing as a clown and having an inflatable clown is not against any law that I'm aware
Can I
of.
be assistant
Ooh.
defense counsel as well?
Sure.
I'm just.
You're going to torpedo your own case, but go for it.
Well, I didn't make that case. That's Dave the juror. I feel like my case is pretty strong. There's also nothing to say that the clown was evil.
I will enter into evidence the first 10 seconds of this cartoon, which reveals an evil fucking clown on a cliff.
I'm
What
going to
is
enter
evil?
into evidence, weirdly enough, as the judge. I'm going to enter into evidence the last 10 seconds of this episode where we find out that he was fired from this place for theft.
Yeah, Aviv had mentioned that.
Right,
But
right,
that's
right.
not his clown persona.
You're saying clowns can't steal?
No, that is against their clown nature.
Oh, wow. I would love to hear about this in your closing arguments.
Clowns can't steal.
I do the
Kangaroo court.
prosecution closes first.
Prosecution goes through how many episodes of SVU
prosecution
have you
closes
guys
last, you idiot. Fucking defense goes first. Prosecution closes
Objection.
last.
Personal attacks.
Sustained.
Motherfucker doesn't know how to do his job.
Counsel, approach the bench.
Yes.
You're acting like a little bitch right now. Fucking
I'm just
chill.
saying the guy doesn't know his
Yo,
own fucking job. He
I'm gonna be
closes last.
When councilman,
He has the advantage.
Counsel, when you act like a little bitch, your voice gets real shrill.
It sure does.
Yeah. So let's keep it roll and go back to.
I forgot
fucking
what side I
table,
was on.
okay?
My apologies.
Back to
My
your
apologies to the other counsel. My apologies.
All right, here we go. Closing statements. Closing arguments.
The prosecution would have you believe that my client is some sort of deranged evil clown. You can tell by the language that he's using. You can tell by the fact that he is using non-deputized members of the community to carry out his searches, which he knows that he cannot get a warrant for. And the arrests of my client was also unlawful, as this was not conducted by sworn officers of the court. My client is very clearly being railroaded by the system here. There is no physical evidence of anything that is being presented here today. It is all speculation whether or not these kids wanted to participate in this. They could have walked away at any given point, but they did not. They were not at all hired to investigate this crime by the owner of the circus. At no point in time. They came, they showed up, they spoke to the owner. The owner gave up some weird story of a haunted clown, but we all know this is not real. This is not real. So why are these kids here? There is nothing to investigate. My client is certainly being railroaded for a crime that he has already admitted to, which was stealing in the past. This is the state trying to get my client again for something that he has already confessed and served for.
All right. Thank you, counsel.
I will remind district attorney that the burden of proof does lay on the side of the prosecution.
I'd like to take a moment to review the charges. We have.
Which, by the way, they've evolved a lot, so can I get those charges again, too?
This is why we're doing this.
Yeah, make a
Because
couple
I kind of
copies
feel
there.
like there's going to be some extra charges that I didn't get a chance to address whenever you're rattling these
Life's
off.
hard in the NFL.
Further evidence of the railroad job that is occurring against my client.
2 counts of attempted murder for Max the Midget and Samson the Strongman.
This was never established in the court, not to mention the fact there is no evidence that my client actually sabotaged anything. This is all speculation.
I'll allow it as a jury.
What will you
How
allow?
does this wait?
Overruled as the judge?
What are you allowing?
What is happening right now?
All right, yeah, counsel, please concede. Or
Okay.
please, counsel.
Holy shit, the judge has gone rogue.
All right, those charges have been dropped.
Counsel
We're
just
dropping those
conceded,
charges.
done.
We're
Counsel-
dropping those charges.
Please proceed with your closing arguments.
Okay. 3 counts of unlawful mental imprisonment, 1 count of unlawful physical imprisonment, and 1 count of sexual misconduct brought against Miss Daphne Smith.
No, it's not. It's not brought against Daphne. She's the complaining witness.
Objection. Thank you very
Counsel.
much. On behalf of. So,
I swear, we do a Law and Order podcast, guys.
Great-
We're really good too.
great
We know how this
job,
works.
guys. Great
so
effort and work.
who's
Are you
really
still
at
going?
fault here? Who are the real victims? And 1 count of trespass.
I think anybody who's still listening at this point.
For all 2 of you, thanks for sticking with
Thanks,
us.
guys. Appreciate it.
So, my client may have been arrested by non-deputized officers of the law. However, these are not the people who are on trial. These are the people who feared for their life to the point at which they had to use a mirror to reverse hypnotize an evil clown.
Amen.
Amen. Don't call him
Oh, I
mistrial,
thought
please. So the binding and restraining of the defendant was only for the physical safety of our complaining witnesses. We have no evidence to suggest that they wanted to be in the circus. We actually have evidence to suggest the opposite. And in addition, there is some, excuse my language, pretty shady shit going on with a certain costume change. I will let the,
I'll allow
the
that
judge
language.
and jury deliberate.
Judge Ellis, what do you think? He just took an eagle out of a cage. Is that it's
I'm
flying
gonna
through the-
allow.
Okay.
I'm still gonna allow
Okay,
it.
no, it's fine. It's trailing an American flag behind it. I feel like this is,
I mean,
It's
everybody
strong.
likes to have their own victory dance.
it's strong. It's a strong case.
Yeah, I mean, he really bookended
Mm-hmm.
that closing argument
With the
in
eagle.
a way that I did not seem possible. Wow. Okay, do you need to confer as yourself with yourself
I wanted
before
to
you come back?
I wanted to confer with you. I feel like that's acceptable, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
So let me say, do you think that the prosecutor has made a good enough case based on available evidence that beyond a shadow of a doubt, as he stated in his opening statement before the Eagles, do you think he's made his case?
Fly, Eagles, fly!
I think that the prosecution has been able to make a strong case. I think the challenging thing is that everything for this seems to be very subjective, and I can see a lot of the points that the defense is making about this being something where these 5 people showed up, were not asked to look around within this area. Ergo, they were trespassing on a business's property during that time. I also have to wonder about the reputation and sort of the business practices that are put in place for this actual circus itself. That they would have so many animals, as we've heard about, that have been left unattended, where a woman on a unicycle would be able to run over a bunch of pachyderms without any type of an animal
Objection,
handler.
pachyderm?
That somebody would be a pack of pachyderms. That somebody would allow a gentleman to go into a lion's cage without any supervision or awareness of what was going on, regardless of mental state or where his mind may or may not have been in a prison. So that is very challenging. I think the thing that that I am noticing here is from the testimony that we've received from a Miss Daphne Blake about the sexual misconduct. That seems to be currently right now the evidence that we have that is really sustaining this, plus the testimony that we have from the actual ringleader for this circus regarding the firing of Harry the Hypnotist in the first place. I think that pattern of behavior itself allows me to understand a little bit about what we're getting into with this specific individual, as well as also his actions within the court today that have allowed him to be in contempt.
Can I point something
how
out
I'm
for a
looking at it.
second?
I don't know that you can.
Oh, well, fuck it.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
I'll allow it.
Sure.
All of
judge.
Sean's evidence were things that he said himself.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how this
That's how this cartoon court works. What do you think?
Yeah.
I did nothing. I'm the worst lawyer ever.
Yeah, do you
Apparently-
think this was SVU, or do you think this was more Harvey Birdman, attorney at law? Because I'm gonna
Tiny
be honest with you,
attorney
it's
over
leaning
there.
more towards
Yeah.
the latter.
Where's Tiny Attorney? It's powerful hot. Over there. Busier than a cat trying to bury a toy on a marble floor.
Tiny
to me, Judge Ellis, a lot of your points seem to fall into the trap that the Scooby Gang, as they call themselves, are not the ones on trial here. They are the victims, regardless of any wrongdoings they may have done, as far as trespassing goes, regardless of any oversights that the circus may have had as far as adhering to, local municipal codes of circus keeping and animal husbandry and such. That's not the question here. And the fact that we have not only the testimony of Mr. Barnstrom, I guess we had it at some point off the record. Not only the testimony about the former employee of his who was on trial, we also have the testimony of 4.5 sentient creatures who are testifying against the defendant. That some shit went down. We also have the defendant not denying the fact that he was dressed as an evil clown and also had an evil clown inflatable suit. And the gold coin in question was, I believe, entered into evidence. I think I've made up my mind based on available evidence
We didn't land on
And the
Plymouth
strength
Rock.
of the-
Plymouth Rock landed on us.
and the continued strength of the counselor's arguments. The eagle is still circling, by the way.
As the judge and the jury, then, Dave, would you like to?
I thought you were the judge.
No, we've been sharing judges'
we're
duties, but he's
sharing
also
Co-judges.
Judge, we share judge
Co-judges.
duties between us. Let's just do a simple.
I'm Judge Reinhold, and he's just a woman named Judy.
Yeah, 100%. Do you want to go by count basis? I don't, because I can't remember them.
Yeah.
2 counts.
They
And
changed a lot.
I never got a list of all those.
I never got a consistent, coherent list. There's a lot of
So
laundry.
I feel like
scribbles.
I think this is gonna be like a one verdict thing where it's like it's just gonna be an across the board verdict.
Yeah, he's either going
Yeah,
up the river,
probably.
getting the dip, or not. You want to do like a 3 count and do like an up or down? Thumbs up for he's not guilty and thumbs down for he's guilty, or whatever the.
Yeah, we should definitely do something physical and video related on an audio
I'm
podcast.
just trying to time it with you.
Okay. All right. You ready?
I can't see your thumb.
Should we? I just count to 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Will
yeah.
count to 3.
1,
Remember, down is guilty and up is innocent.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Oh, that's nonsense. I would have hung him if we had 12 jurors.
Well, the only person who's gonna hang is that clown.
Can we get a statement from
feel-
the clown?
I would love to hear.
No,
a
he's in
statement from
contempt. He's not in the court anymore.
I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids.
I've been waiting an hour and a half just for that.
Yeah, I know. Jesus Christ.
Damn it.
All right. Hey, guys. Before we get into our opinions about this show, it turns out you jokers on the internet, you ghost clowns of the web, you guys also have your own opinions. And so to honor those and to discuss them a little bit more, we're going to turn this over to a longtime listener and friend of the show, Bobby Anthem, for this week's Love It or Hate It. Bobby, take it away, sir.
This week's Love It was written by The Little Songbird on July 17th, 2016. Songbird rated the show 10 out of 10 and titled the review, "Helped Change One's Perception of Clowns Forever." It says, Bedlam in the Big Top is up there with the best Scooby-Doo Where Are You episodes for me. Being one of the episodes that impacted me most when younger, Bedlam in the Big Top is one of the creepier Scooby-Doo Where Are You episodes. Took a few risks and is also one of the least predictable episodes of the series. Aside from the motive, the haunted circus setting actually looks and feels haunted, compared to the more colorful and far less deserted circuses once used during their youth, setting a genuinely creepy ambiance. The villain is for me too one of the freakiest of the show. From the look, the voice, the mannerisms, and his actions, helping to change the initial childhood perception of clowns being fun-loving and funny to something darker and scarier, while not being quite as traumatizing as a film and TV clown like Pennywise, which for back then was different and bold. Overall, terrific episode, with the atmosphere and boldness standing out in particular. And our Hate It, not really so much of a hate it, was written by Michael Elliott on October 5th, 2013. The review was simply titled, Bedlam in the Big Top. Michael said, overall, this here is a pretty average entry in the series, although there's no question that die-hard fans should still get a kick out of it. The ghost clown himself makes for a decent villain, or at least he looks good. I wouldn't say he was all that memorable because he really wasn't given too much to do. He mainly puts the cast members under his spell, and then we see them do things that they normally wouldn't do. This includes Shaggy playing a lion tamer, Scooby going on a high wire, and Daphne riding a unicycle. The circus setting was a good one, but there just weren't enough laughs to make this more memorable overall. The story itself wasn't all that strong due to the fact that we pretty much get the same structure over and over. Episode B.
Spot on. Perfect. I want to know if we can get Bobby Anthem animated in a classic Hanna-Barbera style. That's what I want. 2018, the year that we animate Bobby
Yeah,
Anthem.
that's the plan. That's where all the money's going to.
Wait, we're just funneling money into
Pull up a
animation?
floorboard
No,
and change
just-
its colors. It's Bobby Anthem.
Yeah, just specifically animating Bobby Anthem. That's what.
Oh, God.
We've talked
I
about
love it.
this. But anyway,
Talked about this.
it's off
All right. So we want to understand from our guests of the show tonight, as well as our own opinions about this. We want to know if you would recommend Scooby-Doo, and if you do not recommend Scooby-Doo, you can give it the dip, which erases it from the annals of cartoon history forever, or until Dave and I decide for a mechanism to resurrect something from the dead. So right now, we want to go to Matt Reuter. We want to thank you again for being here and being on the show. We want to know, do you recommend or do you not recommend Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
I highly recommend watching this. I don't know if it's the nostalgia thing or if it's for any of the other notes that we had talked about tonight. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of a little wacky to look at sometimes, but it's fun. It's interesting, and I mean, it's very formulaic. So if you don't have to really watch one. You kind of get the entire run of the series. So it's not really time consuming either. So yes, I absolutely recommend watching.
Awesome. Thank you. Aviv Rubenstein, a pleasure as always, sir. I wanted to ask, do you recommend this or not?
I highly, highly recommend Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I also want to give it up to my my worthy adversary, Mr. Matt Reuter, as a defense attorney for the Killer Clown from Outer Space. I highly recommend Scooby-Doo, if anything, because of the the pillar it is in the animated television pantheon. It is one of the most, probably 5 most important animated series of all time, and in terms of what it brought to the nation. Sorry, I'm still in, like, prosecution closing argument mode. No, I think it's great, and it was fun to watch it. It's cheeseball. You can bang through all 25 original episodes in like a day. And so it is such an important and was so influential to so many other shows that you'd be doing yourself a real disservice by dipping it.
Great. Dave, what are your thoughts and feelings? Do you recommend this, or do you do you not give it the dip?
Yeah, 100% recommend, even though it's honestly not one of my favorite, like, classic cartoons. It is just a classic in and of itself. So if somehow you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen that cartoon, fix it. What are you doing?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, recommend. Yeah, there's a lot
You're
wrong
done.
with you.
You fucked up.
about you, Ben?
As for myself, I'm 100% going to recommend this for all the reasons that we stated. It is fantastic, even in all of its creepy juggalo glory for the episode that we saw tonight.
Over-sexualization of an animated cartoon woman.
Yeah, just a lack of whites of their eyes animated for Hanna-Barbera during this era. It is still fantastic, and it is absolutely worth checking out, as well as I know that we've talked about a lot of the the additional series that have been added onto Scooby-Doo, and I know that Aviv, some of these are memorable for you, and I know that a lot of us have watched them too. So if this isn't something that was a classic or a favorite that you loved during this time, or have watched it in syndication there since its original inception, this might be something where you check out some of the newer versions that they have that are out there. These are also fantastic and lovely. And shout out to Kate Micucci for doing such a great job with Velma, and keep up the great work with everything you're doing. So,
And we'll see you at IKEA.
How do we not go out on that?
Awesome. Yeah, well, I think we just did. So we want to thank Aviv, and we also want to thank Matt for being here again.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. It was so much fun.
And we want to ask, starting with Matt, what do you, anything that you specifically have that you would like to plug, and also where can the fine folks that are listening find you on social media?
I want to plug our podcast, Law and Order Special Viewing Unit. You can find us on iTunes. I don't think we're on Stitcher or any of the other myriad of places you get your podcasts. Come check us out. We've got a Twitter feed. It's at SVU Podcast. And we've also got our Gmail, which is specialviewingunit@gmail.com.
Awesome. And can they, if they want to find you anywhere in particular, are you just like, I'm a private citizen?
I am not on any social media, actually, other than
Smart
the
man.
podcast
Smart man.
social media. So, no, you can't. So, that's okay.
Oh,
Don't worry
Challenge
about it.
accepted.
Yeah. Conversely, Overshare Aviv, what do you have that you'd like to plug, and where can the good people find you?
Objection to this.
Overruled.
Done with that.
Keep moving, buddy.
Yeah, please find us on at SVU Podcast on Twitter and specialviewingunit@gmail.com. For my own personal stuff, I'm at Rambo Calrissian. I'm in a band. We're called Jacob the Horse. You can find us at Jacob the Horse. Our Twitter is specifically so I can tell Donald Trump to go fuck himself. So that's usually what I'm on Twitter doing daily. And yep, that's about it.
Awesome. For myself, guys, I do live improv comedy in Washington, D.C. with a group that is called Nox. That's spelled NOX exclamation point. We perform with Washington Improv Theater, and you can find tickets and times witdc.org. And you can find me on the Turs and the IGs at Sean Paul Ellis. Dave's shaking his head. What you got, buddy?
Every time it's awful. I'm going to take you to court and sue you to never use those words again. Is that how court
Do
works?
it.
In suing?
Do
Yeah.
it.
Awesome. You
Not.
You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Claw MD. You can also find me on Collider.com, Nerdist.com, and DaveTrumbore.com. If you want to find out more about this little show right here, you can do so at our Patreon page, patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. And remember, that's morning with a U. You can also find us on our website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Follow along on Twitter at MorningTunes. Take a look at Sean's handiwork, Judge Sean's handiwork, on our Instagram page, and keep that conversation going on Facebook. Listen to our free audio podcast each and every week through YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And as always, if you have charges to file against us for any grievance imaginable,
At Rambo
at
Calrissian.
Rambo Calrissian, send it to email, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. It's been too long.
Thank you. Yes,
since we
it's
got
been
to
Yeah,
do
thank
this.
you,
Great.
guys.
We'll have to have you guys on another episode of our podcast, which you were on when we first got ours off the ground.
Yeah,
So we'll
it
have
was a
to
long
do
time.
another
Yes,
episode.
please.
Yeah.
And I
Nice.
love
Yeah.
talking to Dave and Sean on Twitter.
Heck
Just
yeah, it's good
interacting.
Yeah.
Interacting.
Yeah, just, doing this.
Just a plug for Twitter in
Good job,
general.
Twitter.
Yeah. We just want to
Get on Twitter,
shout
guys.
out to
except for
Twitter.
me.
You're doing great.
Ban those Nazis, but other than
You're
that,
doing so good mostly.
Oh boy.
You're almost there, Twitter. Hang in there, buds.
yeah, I
Oh
just
my
wanted to
God.
thank you for having us on. You're so wonderful all the time. Even though we disagree about Star Wars, I still respect your opinion. And yeah, please come on our show soon.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
Will do.
bring up that Star Wars stuff another time because I can't honestly even remember what we're talking about. So, rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
And with that, everybody's listening. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you next time. Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.